Hey, this is Jim McKeith with the podcast at Delphi.org. I'm here at PDC talking with Allen Bauer about Delphi 2009.
Great, I get to see myself.
There, I'll turn around. There you go. Hi, Allen. How's it going?
Okay.
Oh, there's the camera. So you attended the parallel session yesterday for.
Yes.
So that for preparation for the Commodore, or?
It's just some research that I'm doing, for next products and things. So I'm looking at what Microsoft's providing and what they're doing with the platform in general. So far, what they're doing is a lot of work on the .NET space. There's also some work on the C++ side. And we got a couple other guys here that are looking into some of the C++ side of things as well. So, yeah, I'm just trying to keep up on what's going on and make sure that we're staying relevant with everything. So, bring a lot of those technologies into Delphi as well. So, how that shows up in the future, I don't know yet. Like I said, it's just research and ideas and thoughts.
Sure.
At this point.
Sure. So I noticed with a lot of the new features in Delphi 2009 on the Win32 side, they were implemented in a way that was similar to the way it's on .NET.
Yes.
Similar syntax and naming and stuff like that?
Yes, it's by design. I mean, now with the announcement of Delphi Prism, you can kind of see where we were going with a lot of that stuff and trying to get the two languages not completely, source code compatible, but where it makes sense to where the syntax and the language constructs make sense. We're going to start bringing them together, which also means that where they don't make sense, they're not going to come together. So there's a lot of language constructs on the Win32 side that really only make sense for unmanaged code, so they won't show up on the Delphi Prism side. Likewise, there are a lot of things that really make sense or leverage the .NET framework very well, and so they don't necessarily make sense or map to on the Win32 side. So the goal here is to leverage the underlying platforms as best as we can, but provide a certain level of compatibility between the two languages as time moves on.
Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, it's that you're the same thinking as you remember how it works in one, and it's going to work similar in the other one for things that we do, and then where they don't, obviously. Yeah.
So as a matter of fact, one of the first things that when we started talking with the REM Objects guys for the implementation of the new Delphi Prism and stuff, some of the language constructs that they had actually added to the language was kind of interesting. And if you look at the new exit syntax in Delphi, that was a direct response to some of our initial talks to some of the REM Objects guys about getting some of the language things cross-pollinating between the two, and that was a direct result of some of those early talks, is by just saying, well, these are the kinds of things we can quickly do and easily do on the Delphi native side to help with some of the migration of code between the two.
I thought the exit with a parameter was a nice touch. I like that one.
It's one of those things that I thought we've needed for years and years and years, and nobody else was around to really have any time to do it. So I just sort of took it on myself to play with it and figure out how to do it. Got it in. So
cool. So what were some of the things that you worked on most in 2009?
Mainly I worked on the team.
Okay.
I just sort of helped define and direct some of the direction of the team more than actually working on some core stuff. I did do some of the compiler work, did work on that, a lot of some of the RTL work, helped a lot with the Unicode transition with that. So I can't really point to any specific thing because it's pretty much all over the map.
Okay.
On that. So which has been that way about the last few releases, where this is pretty much where they need the horsepower. I usually jump in and try and fill in the gaps where I can.
So you're kind of more of an architecture role then, as far as technical architecture then, or?
Yes.
Okay.
So I work with product management as far as helping define the scope and the direction. I tell them when things can't be done in the time frames they say, and I fight to make sure that they're kept in line. And, they push back, and I try and figure out how we can get it done and stuff. So there's a lot of collaboration there between the product management, marketing, things, and also just with the team in general.
Okay. So how are things different now that you're with Embarcadero versus Borland?
so far things are going pretty well. I like some of the enthusiasm that the upper execs have for the products and for Delphi. They're also equally enthusiastic about their products. You know, the ones that the traditional Embarcadero products, but they're very enthusiastic about everything.
That's cool.
As far as long-term things, we're only barely 4 or 5 months into this thing, so time will tell. But it's off to a really good start, I think.
All right, cool. All right. So one question I've had for a while, and with CodeGear's recent announcement about Prism, is .NET going to be the future of Windows development? What do you think?
I think it is a future, and is a very strong future for things. I also think that native development is still going to be a fairly large piece of the market. There's a lot of advantages that managed code give people that help them focus more on some of the problems at hand. Whereas the native code certainly gives you sort of the unprecedented control and power over the machine that a lot of developers enjoy. But especially with the latest announcements from Microsoft with the Azure platform, really it's not about necessarily the power and control over a specific machine. It's really about ultimately solving the problems that you're trying to solve. And so if there's a platform that lets you do that unencumbered and let you scale to the level that they're trying to do, then that's certainly a very compelling story as well. And the .NET space is really where that they're leveraging that technology at least out of the gate. Although they have mentioned that the Azure platform will be supporting native code, so all the Visual C++ guys, obviously, and plus along the Delphi Win32 guys, the native code guys, are going to be able to play in that space as well. And so it's going to be interesting to see what we can do on the Delphi side, especially the Delphi native side, to help support the new Azure platform.
Yeah, I was in the keynote this morning. I missed them mentioning that about the native code, but I saw you in your Twitter. You'd mentioned that, and I'm like, oh, I didn't catch that part.
Yeah, I definitely latched onto that one because I'm like going, because they were really talking a lot about the .NET and all of that stuff, but clearly they're looking at eventually and supporting it. Right now, out of the gate, a lot of the services and everything are really much more easily consumed by .NET, and also for deployment and everything, deploying a .NET based application. They're clearly thinking about the native space as well. So especially when you're dealing with the hypervisor and the Hyper-V technologies that are coming out, deploying native code can be done just as safely now as managed code. So you can much more easily sandbox, spool up a virtual system, a virtual machine. It's running native code. You can tear down that virtual machine and not worry about tearing down the entire world around it and stuff. So it's pretty interesting that they can some of the technologies that everyone's working on.
Cool. That's pretty exciting stuff. As actually on the way down, I was talking to someone on the plane, and if he thought Microsoft was going to announce a services-based or a cloud-based operating system. Yeah. Sure enough, that's what they did.
Yep. Yeah, they were definitely doing that. I really had no preconceived notions of what they were going to announce. I really came here looking at some of the multi-core technologies, a lot of sessions on that. So that's clearly another avenue that they're putting a lot of horsepower behind. And so it would be good for us to either figure out how we can leverage some of that, or just look at using it as sort of a blueprint on how we want to actually incorporate some of those same kinds of things into the products.
Really, the cloud's almost like multi-core to the extreme. Couldn't you have a process that could be running across multiple computers on the cloud? Or
sure, if you're dealing with more along the lines of concurrency and scalability at the sort of a more macro level, but I'm actually looking at parallelism and multi-core things as sort of a much more fine-grained control, where you're dealing with making things happen faster, not necessarily dealing with overall throughput, which is what where you got concurrency, we're trying to manage thousands and thousands of connections, but in the case of a desktop application wanting to speed up graphics processing or speeding up any number of memory intensive processing in a parallel fashion and stuff. So they're inextricably tied at one level, but they're really kind of two different concepts. One builds on the other. One's in the finer grain, one's in the more macro.
Okay, cool. All right, well, anything else you'd like to add before we...
Some of the other things that we're looking at here and interested in is a lot of the new touch technologies. There's a lot of talks here on Microsoft Surface, Multitouch, Windows 7. I imagine tomorrow morning they're probably going to start really rolling out some of the Windows 7, because they're talking this morning's keynote about the client experience and the client-side experience, which is clearly probably going to be all the information about Windows 7 at this point. So definitely interested in some of those things.
All right, cool. All right, well, thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
No problem.